Well, an OEIC basically is a open-end, it's a company formation structure that allows for an ease of investment model that is quite different from regular companies, because instead of having to go through the normal corporate processes for redemptions of its shares, it has an expedited redemption policy. Also, in some ways, it allows for a custodial asset over the actual assets of the company, and for basically a organized unit structure at the top of the board that basically takes care of the day-to-day functions of the company itself. So in some ways it collapses the manager into the company, and yet it still at the same time allows for a custodial agent to have the custody of the assets to guarantee those for the investor. It is different from unit trust. Unit trusts have a typical manager structure, which means that they have a manager in another corporate that sits there and manages the assets, and they have a trustee which has a fiduciary duty to actually oversee the assets in the trust. Quite a different structure to some extent, because one's a corporate, one's a trust. One has an external manager, the other's manager is put inside of the actual company. In other ways, they also differ in actually sort of application. Open-end investment companies end up being a little bit cheaper to manage. They're also a little bit more transparent as far as costs. Depending upon the actual regulatory changes that Singapore comes up with, which nobody knows what they are because it hasn't been introduced yet, if it mirrors some of what has been done in the UK, which is suspected to mirror some of that, then we'll see a situation where they have a lot of benefits that will transfer the old trust structures, which have been the traditional sort of model in Singapore, into more of a modern company-like sort of organization. In effect, what they're doing is mirroring or marrying the sort of US style of mutual funds into a more sort of corporate style that would be very common in sort of the UK or Singapore as far as the corporate sort of structurings.